Good morning, everyone. I'm Jason McKinley, and this is my presentation on Sparing Nature. Sparing Nature is a book by Dr. Jeffrey McKee, who is a professor at Ohio State. He's in the anthropology department and is currently conducting research on hominid evolution and paleoecology. In the book, Dr. McKee contends the growing human population is directly responsible for reduced biodiversity. He starts out the book with a little exercise that kind of sets the tone for everything else in the book. Go outside where you live. Count the species that you see, plants, animals, insects. Just keep a good idea of what all you see. Now go to an undeveloped area such as a forest or a wetland and do the same thing. At my house in the city limits of Cheyenne, I have a larch in my front yard. There were several wrens, gray squirrels, non-native grass, the remains of my wife's lilies and tulips. Keep in mind it's winter time right now, so they're dead. My neighbor also has a cottonwood tree in his front yard, which is non-native. And we have a never-ending supply of cottontail rabbits. Go out to an area where I like to hunt in eastern Wyoming, and I saw cow elk, and I could hear bull elk bugling out way off in the distance. I saw a large herd of mule deer, white-tailed deer, red and gray squirrels, jackrabbits, cottontails, several different native grasses, a plant called devil's paintbrush, which is very sharp and you don't want to sit on it while you're out there, cactus, aspen trees, several different conifers, a badger, which made me decide to go down a different path and away from him, mallard, wood ducks, Canada's goose, and brook trout. So there's about twice as many different species out in this remote location. In the book, Dr. McKee starts out with 3 different theses. The first one is the sparing nature thesis. Nature has been sparing for us. As we grow, nature has been giving up more and more to us. Eventually, it's going to reach a breaking point. The second part of that meaning is we have an obligation to spare nature. Meaning, if we can slow our growth or reduce our growth, then we will slow and reduce species extinction, which will lead to higher biodiversity. The second one is, if we want to conserve biodiversity on Earth, the most important conservation method we can take is to slow or halt the growth of the human population. He points out that he starts it out with an if, because there are questions to be asked. Can we stomach the loss of a certain species? Can we lose a honeybee? Can we lose a salamander? And is our growth more important than that species' survival? The third is conserving biodiversity is vital to the health of our planet and consequently vital to us, meaning the more biodiversity, the better off everything is. Get into the point where we could have a chain reaction if we do allow species to go extinct, as the question was asked in the second thesis. The example that Dr. McKee uses is honeybees. They had an invasive species of some kind of mite come in and destroy their honeybee population in Ohio. So they had to import these bees. Had they not done that, they would have lost agriculture, which would lead to issues for us, meaning no plant life food for us. And we also get into, as we're growing more and more and we're pushing all these animals out, what's the carry capacity of Earth? Well, scientists aren't in complete agreement of this, but the estimates are usually between 9 and 11 billion. The caveat of the high end of 11 billion is we all become vegetarian, and the 1.4 billion hectares of arable land is used for nothing but plant life for us to consume, nothing for livestock. This isn't very realistic because many people, such as myself, enjoy eating meat. So realistically, if we used all the land in the U.S., we could support 2.5 billion U.S. citizens. The book was written in 2003, and at that time, there were 6 billion people on Earth. Currently, in 2018, we have 7.4 billion. So in a little less than a decade and a half, we grew almost 1.5 billion. And as our population grows, we have reduced biodiversity. This is because we need more land for housing, we need more land for agriculture. Both of these displace wildlife and plants. What happens when we displace species? Well, for carnivores, they will adapt, they'll move. All animals will move and adapt as needed until they reach an area where they don't have the carry capacity to survive. So with the carnivores, they might end up still in their former habitat, which is around your house, which could be bad for Fluffy, meaning your domesticated pets might become prey. For birds, raptors will be fragmented, meaning they'll have smaller areas because they're going to stay away from the developed areas, away from human contact, which will also be areas that are smaller with less prey for them. So their numbers are going to decline. Migratory birds are going to have the issue with a smaller breeding ground, which means they're going to be more concentrated in the areas where they can breed and nest, which is going to lead them to more predators that can rob their nest, or diseases will spread through their populations faster because they're in a smaller concentrated area. So the human population is detrimental to nature. How do we stop it? How do we solve this? We don't want to be an impingement on human rights. As Dr. McKee said, if we could get it so that each couple only had 2 kids, so it's just a direct replacement, we wouldn't reduce it, but we would keep our population the same. And we would still be able to live and keep biodiversity going. We could follow China's example with their one-child law. Now, granted, the enforcement hasn't been perfect on that, and they have mixed results due to underreporting. But the most common report that I saw was they had a 1.2% growth in 1980 and a 1.4% growth in 1986, which is better than what we've been seeing in other places. So something should be done. Maybe it is putting a limit on how many children that we can have. It should be putting limits on reproduction. Maybe it should be putting a limit on how much land we can use for agriculture. The decision isn't real clear, and the solution isn't real clear, but hopefully we'll find a way to make it happen. Thank you for your time, and if you follow on to the next slide, there are a few different references that I've used throughout this and a couple good articles that might be worth your time looking through. Thank you for your time.